these are similar. I must say these are also a symbol of mourning, but
Yes, yes.
I've just seems as though we're losing family and friends rapidly, and I wouldn't go into that.
Yes.
Enough to say that an in-law of mine died yesterday. But Marcia, why y'all do this? I have to say something.
I know, because you were in Ghana with me.
You,
So
you,
so
you, you,
say
you.
your bit. Say
Because
your
my
bit.
bit might be what's on my mind. Y'all have turned my
No,
mind
no,
upside
no,
down.
you go right ahead.
Listen,
We're gonna
let
flow.
me say to
We're flowing
Rose,
with the
and good
spirit tonight.
evening. Let me properly acknowledge our audience, the members of the loyal opposition, loyal sons and daughters all. I am very much, and as far as I can remember from my teen days, I have always been a Pan-Africanist. My grandfather on my father's side, and I've shared it on this program in the early days, exemplify this Pan African spirit by investing in the Black Star Liner. And I, from the time I was a child, saw that certificate and claimed it. And I went through in the claim because the original is with me and not with my brothers or sisters, because I said it was mine. I'm also a child of history. I went to university in the initial days to do history. But let me say to Rose, I'll use a couple Bajan saying, monkey see, monkey do. And the other one that I want, let me see if I hope I didn't forget it, was the other one will come back to me. In other words, there's one other saying that I want to share in relation to this. And you have been trying, Rose, to understand what prompted what we saw taking place in Ghana in 2019. And my concern, or my observation, and I would say my certain knowledge, was that there was no long exploration, discussion, determination of what somebody saw something and decided that they wanted to copy it. I believe Marcia spoke, and in fact, Marcia, remember that I think it may have been 2 shows
Yeah.
ago, I said to you that someday we need to speak to
Well, we
this.
probably need to speak right now
And
because
that's why I'm going to speak right
yeah,
now.
and
Because,
your
and as you said,
your mama, your auntie Maxine. So if you tell me to speak, I'm going to speak. So
well, I will
you go
start
ahead.
and you will
Yeah,
continue.
yeah,
So
I
you,
will. So listen, guys.
and I,
Before you do, I
mhm.
want to say this, folks. I need you. What we're going to share some things with you tonight, and we need you to share and to like, and to subscribe. There is a Mr. Neville Brathwaite. That's the name that is coming up. You're putting some important things in the chat, but the chat is moving. I need you to call me privately. This is the number on the screen. Neville Brathwaite, you're telling us some important information about the flag. You're educating us, but it's going so fast. So can you call? You won't be live on air. I will come off and get the information so I can properly share it with the others. Can you do that, please? So important. Go ahead, Miss McClean.
Yeah, and as I was saying, Rose, 2019 was the year of return in Ghana, and you sought to identify what was the rationale from the perspective of the government and people of Ghana. It was an opportunity to engage the African diaspora, the Ghanaian diaspora, and the wider African diaspora. And obviously, there were clear economic benefits to be realized. Some of them continue. That year also coincided with a certain young lady sitting across from me on the screen, along, along with her dear husband. As you know, Marcia is into film, and Marcia took the bold step to do what I consider to have been path-breaking work, and that was to produce a movie which would have spanned Jamaica, Barbados, and Ghana. And I mean, for a small independent film producer, that was a bold step. As I said, I have not seen anybody in Barbados do like that. Somehow, the information of that movie, you know, there's a script and all of that.
Yes.
A script, somebody probably got sight of it, word of its contents or something.
I'm going to tell the truth.
Well, yeah, you will go ahead because you would know exactly
Right.
timescales,
I
etc.
will tell you. I'm just jumping in here to tell you.
So that,
I submitted I was coerced, I would say, and encouraged strongly by Mr. John King to give him the copy of the screenplay, which we don't normally do, Miss McClean. And I told him that, and we were back and forth, but he convinced me. We became good friends, and I sent him the script. So that's how the script got into
the public domain, in the
right,
public service.
Well, into them. Yeah, go ahead.
Into the hands of at least one cabinet member.
Good. There you go.
Others. So that script probably titillated somebody's thoughts as to, because, and I say to those people who have not seen the movie, Joseph, go and see it. And later on, I will put in a disclaimer there. I would encourage you to go and see it. I have a serious interest in that movie because I really was taken with what. And so at the end of the day, Rose and company, people saw the script. And at the heart of the script was somebody who was of Maroon ancestry. And if you know the history of West Africa and the Caribbean and Jamaica and Maroons, etc., you would understand the connections with Africa. And somebody sought to take ideas from that script. So I don't know that there was any long story about getting into, you know, talking to the Ghanaian government and so on. So, you know, people do things to get hot and sweaty. I like that expression. We got some good Bajan expressions. So you rush off to do something. And that's why they would have probably consulted with Marcia, because ideas were borrowed from her movie script. And I dare anybody to tell me otherwise, because we have had this discussion since 2019. And it was known that part of that film was going to be shot in Ghana, and it was shot in Ghana. And I made it my business to go. Marcia can fill in some of the details. It was shot in Ghana. It was shot in Accra, in Cape Coast, where they went to the castle. And it was shot in Kumasi.
Yes.
Where, because of that, Marcia, I will say it now and show off, I got to meet the king of the Ashanti people.
Yeah, Ashanti king.
In fact, right. I must tell you, I saw a video with his son graduating from high school the other day in very princely form and very, you know, it was interesting. But the reality was that it was known that there were elements of that movie which spoke about return, but difference between the returned Africans that Marcia spoke and of whom she paid tribute in the movie and recognized, and she can give you as I have always told Marcia, there's a story behind that story. There's a film behind the film, but I digress. So the difference there was that these were people who expressed a desire to return. What we did not have was the return of any known former, African slaves. So that is where it digressed. But the reason was that they were trying to get ahead of what the film producers were doing.
Yes.
That's what it was. It's as simple as that. And it was done. And what made it worse was when you look at the footage of what transpired, there were a set of people who got beside themselves and were sending images out before they, so a whole set of things went wrong. As I tell people, the keepers of our protocols, we talked about emblems. Mm-hmm. Those things rest with the Prime Minister of Barbados and the people in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So, I understand a little bit about some of these things. So I would say to Rose, don't try to understand, exercise too much intellectual energy trying to understand what happened. As I said, monkey see, monkey do. And there's a saying that it was running through my mind, Marcia, as I was preparing to come on the show. I will come back and I would use it later. But sometimes when you try to imitate,
Yeah.
you mess up. And there's
Mess
a
up.
saying that was in my mind and it will come back in a minute, you know. So I really would want to say that in all of this, there was serious respect given in the production of that film to what was done. And there is my friend, um, the uncle in the movie, you know.
Ah, yes, yes, yes.
Yes. Um, and so I think at the end of the day, the other saying that I would think is, you start wrong, you end wrong. And
Correct.
that is the unfortunate reality in relation to what has happened. Now, on the positive side, Marcia, because I don't know, let me pause and see if there's anything you want to say
No,
before.
what I wanted to say was that in and I said a little bit of this with Mrs. Corbin, that when we went to Ghana, as we were researching the script, to write the script, I was told about Miss Minnie, the Jamaican who took the enslaved the remains of the enslaved woman Crystal and brought her to Ghana. And they had, in that particular instance, Ms. McClean, they had the historical connection between Crystal and Ghana. They had the history. They had everything was proven right before they could have taken. And so it took years and lots of challenges. I had the opportunity of interviewing Miss Minnie's daughter and her family, and also the people, the Jamaicans in Ghana, who were trying to make it happen. So it was a lot of research. That's why they could tell you the story of the enslaved. Right now, if you look at this picture, Dave, if you go back a little bit, you see this casket that is in the picture, because we were recreating, in a sense, we were recreating Miss Minnie, right? What Miss Minnie did. If you look at the casket, it's wrapped with the
Kente cloth.
kente cloth. That's how all of if Dave could go back a little to show them, that is based on the research I saw, my fellow Barbadians. All of the caskets were wrapped with the kente cloth. The big question that shocked me when I saw it is why was the casket that represented the enslaved person, which is a whole gimmick. Why was that casket also wrapped with the Barbadian flag? That is the mystery. Look at this. We did this. This is being done true to form, folks. This is how it's done. This. Pause right there. Barbadians, the question to ask, Ms. McClean, why? Why? Why did it have the Barbadian flag, and why was it lowered in the ground? Somebody asked the question, was it buried? I can't say it was buried. I wasn't there. The person in Foreign Affairs that had called me initially, Dave, if you could keep it there, please. That's Alison Hines there on the left. There, that's the female that you see there. It's Alison Hines. Now,
and on her right that's Chantel, isn't it? On
Chantel,
her right?
yes, Chantel is to Alison's right.
Right, yeah.
It's Chantel, the singer, Chantel
Lane.
Lane. Okay. Now, I lost my train of thought there, but Miss McClean, I think that we need to pause and ask the question, why was so different? Oh, I was saying that the reason this was done, it's because when we research it, that's how the others were done. That's how Crystal, the enslaved person from Jamaica that was brought to Ghana, that is how it was done. And this is the truth, I'm telling you. And Mike, the big question that we have to ask the Prime Minister of this country, why was the Barbadian flag put on Rose just showed you that it was, see, you see that? Why, Miss McClean?
Well, part of it is that people, first of all, note what you said. Serious research went into the work that you did in terms of getting to ensure authenticity. Let me put it that way. And I remember when you identified, there was a historian that was trying to remember, because you were able to unearth accurate information. So you properly researched it. You respected the processes and all of these things. And as I said, somebody decided that, they wanted to do something, and they wanted to do it in a hurry. And that is why, at the end of the day, all the errors that were made. I do not know what went into doing these things. People have been asking questions, and the only people who can answer that would be the people who conceptualize or who decided that they want to do whatever it is they did for whatever reason. But the key point, and I'm happy that you've finally gotten a chance to say to Barbadians, an original idea was part of a movie called Joseph, scripted by, produced by, and director. You were the director too?
Yes.
Directed by Marcia Weeks. She had an international team of actors and support persons. She established good relations between her creative counterparts in Ghana. And in fact, there was something with Nigeria as well, because after the movie was made.
Yes, and also the president of Ghana and the Ghana Tourism Authority.
Right, precisely.
Before the prime minister. So that's
precisely. In fact, she established relations with the former president of Ghana before she went to Ghana, and that, as I said, Marcia will tell you the story of that movie, because it is extremely interesting. And it is not, as I said to Marcia, step by step. This is not by coincidence. This is by divine order. And if she takes you through the sequences, the series of things that happened, that allowed Marcia then to end her movie to be the official end, one of the activities at the official end of the year of return 2019, when, through the initiative of the then president of Ghana, the movie was shown to end the year of return. And I can tell you that I heard news. I remember, because I returned for that, and I stayed on for a bit, and so in essence, one of the things is that there was authenticity. And Marcia, just tell them also that the main actor, Joseph, decided on visiting Ghana for the first time, he was going to live there. And he lives there now, continuing to do a whole set of things, including, I think there's an interesting Jamaican restaurant with which he has connections and all kinds of things. So there were very positive things that came out of this. And if people had taken the time to understand what was intended, and to go and research, do the kind of research that Marcia did, instead of trying to quickly pick somebody's brains. And I'm being very frank, Marcia. I am being very frank. Because you see, you don't do these things half, babe, And so there is Our Lady of the Night, not Lady of the Night. Let me take back that one. The Lady of the Moment. and the head honcho in the making of this film. But as I said, it really is. There's a lot. And there's Kevoy, that's the lead actor. He now lives in Accra. Well, in Ghana. Yeah. I presume he's still in Accra. I'm in touch with him from time to time.
So yeah, and it's amazing. I don't know why. Oh my God.
Because they figured, Marcia, having read the script, that there were remains, and you were taking remains or something or the other, or that you had done the research, and therefore a shortcut was to pick your brains.
Minutes, all right. So this is Mr. Murray would have had his full segment. So go ahead,
No,
Miss
I
McClean.
just wanted to say to Glenn, when Marcia asked me today what was on my mind, and I said to her, I really did not have a chance. Well, like this morning, until I came home from church this afternoon, because I ended up visiting my a relative in hospital and some other things. But I said to her, I was going to look at the newspaper. I went over to my sister's house this afternoon and I took up her Saturday Sun, and I saw a couple articles. The first one was this article here. I don't know if you can see the title from there. Well, it's backward, but it says "Same Rock, Different Rules. My Turn to Talk." Sharita Odell. And this is Michael Howard's daughter.
Put it up again, Miss McClean. Put it up. And if anybody out there, could they help us with the show? Come on, viewers. You can get can give us a virtual copy. What's the word I'm looking for?
Electronic copy.
Electronic copy. Thank you.
And it's yesterday's article, "Same Rock, Different Rules" by Sharita Odell.
Yes.
And she's talking about and I just read it very quickly. Say, from such a small island, we are fascinating social cocktail, mainly Black with smaller Black, influential white and Indian communities, each navigating financial life in uniquely patterned slippers. The way we earn, spend, save, and invest is deeply influenced by history, culture, and let's be honest, trust, or the lack of it. And then she goes on to talk about the Black majority, a legacy interrupted, the Indian community power in the pool. And then she mentioned, of course, the white minority, the silent inheritance. The other part of this paper was dedicated to yesterday, which was Cooperator Day. That's where cooperators, International Day of Cooperatives. Let me give it its proper title.
Yeah.
And anybody who knows me, I talk about the power in pooling. And what I wanted to do was to link that with some other things I saw in today's paper, where the Minister of Energy and I think Business, Senator, what's her name again? Lisa Cummins, is talking about creating opportunities. And the first thing that came to mind when she mentioned this trust entity was these $5,000. Now, at the end of the day, Glenn has touched on something very quickly, Marcia, that I will come back to because it fits in nicely with a whole set of things, even what we were talking about earlier, which is the orange economy, to use the labels that they like to use, the creative sector, and what support there is or otherwise. Now, at the end of the day, I was reflecting, Glenn and our audience, on the fact that within a few days, this academic year comes to an end. The university students have completed the academic year already, but for schools, secondary and primary schools, the academic year comes to an end. And I was searching frantically this evening to see if I could find some numbers on the numbers of school leavers, because we're talking about wealth creation. We're talking about opportunity or lack of it and the shifting, because Glenn, you have touched on the PSD sector. But if you look at the housing situation, rental housing, there's an interesting phenomenon taking place there as well. But I go on the street. Only today I commented about it. I was talking to my nephew. I was driving with one of my nephews and I was talking about it. And I noticed a number of cars, very expensive cars on the road. Most of them are reconditioned cars. And I said I have to take a minute, because if I had time this evening, I would have done it as part of the research I'm doing for this. Because I can guarantee you that when you do an analysis, because there was an item on the thing saying mortgage, loans have, loans by, I think, financial institutions, including credit unions, have gone up in terms of mortgages. But I am sure that if you do an analysis of the amount of money being loaned for cars, is an extremely high amount of money. And part of the problem is, for me, people are buying these vehicles, and some will say out of necessity, but my question is, do you have to put that kind of money, or what is happening? So in other words, what I'm seeing happening, Glenn, is that people are using their monies to consume people, our people, when I say our people, the black majority, are using their monies to consume, and there's this immediate kind, spending for the now and so on. But the opportunities for wealth creation, and I think that you've drawn that important distinction, is not happening within the communities, starting with families in a lot of instances, and certainly it is not being facilitated as best as it can by the business sector nor the government. And I think so there's three elements in there. And I think the time has come for a mindset in how we look at these things and how we act. And I think you've touched on.
We'll have to take that out, continue that
Another.
on another, because
Right.
we thank you, very well said. Miss McClean, a short comment, and then over to Mr. Murray, because we have two.
I will make it very short, Marcia, because I think that people like Patrick King and the people on whose behalf he speaks are a vile bunch of excuses for human beings. There is absolutely no reason. Well, I don't know that Mr. King was any friend of Alvin. I don't know that. And even if he were somebody to talk to him, I don't know how he got what appears to be Alvin's voice. And I will not question whether it is. I would say, assuming that it is. Why in God's name, unless somebody in government was taping the conversations of Mr. Toppin, and I believe that that is very much possible, given all that has been happening, that you would take that and forget the content, because I'm not going to get into that. It is utter disrespect for my late brother and comrade and his family.
Correct.
Talking about Mr. King, he talks about his daughters. Alvin has a daughter. And she lives in this country.
Exactly.
And she hears things. For crying out loud, what kind of gutter creature are you, Mr. King? You get paid, and you've talked about earning from the government, so I presume that you get paid for doing this. But don't you have any boundaries? And I say to all Barbadians who have sought to circulate that, have respect for the dead. Put yourself in people's shoes. Understand what it is to lose a loved one, a colleague, a friend, a brother, a father. And in trying to do the nastiness that you're doing, you are not hurting the living. You may exasperate them, you may anger them, but you are disrespecting a decent man who has not even been given the opportunity to have his last rites.
Yeah.
And you behave like this. I really, all that I've heard, I am not going to get into more of that, because I think that Barbadians are losing their sense of decency.
Yes.
And what is right and what is wrong.
Yes.
We saw the nonsense about a flag today, but when the head of this country, the head of government, because we have a head of state and we have a head of government, when they can do some of the nastiness that they do, and I call it nastiness, because Mr. King is not acting on his own behalf. He's acting as a I call it a political pimp for people who feel that they will get some partisan political mileage out of nastiness. And if that's how they want to be, go ahead, but think of other people. I told you earlier that when we mentioned our clothes, and I told you that this is part is mourning for my brother Alvin. But I also am dealing with the death of a close in-law of mine. I understand what grief is. I understand what death means, and sudden death, things that you don't. I don't say gone too soon, because as a practicing Christian, I do not know how and when, but it hurts. But when you lose someone suddenly, it does. But when you behave as if you are some animal from out of the deep, some dark place, to come and behave like this, I really am sick and tired of what this country is becoming or has become. And I say it has become so not because of young, misguided criminals or whatever. They are taking the cue from the top. and you may hide behind mouthpieces. But what mileage do you get from vile behavior, either done on your behalf, whether it is direct instructions or people
Right.
doing it because they feel they will get brownie points? Give me a break. And I say to all of the Barbadians, including a friend of mine who sent me about that voice note, to haul and pull up and think about your personal situations and ask yourself, if that were your voice or the voice of a loved one or friend or child or mother, sister, brother, would you want to circulate that? Have some respect. And this is not only to King, this is to all the Barbadians who feel that they must send those kinds of things around. You're a sick bunch of people when you participate in this crap. Yes. And I think, Marcia, we need to tell people that is what it is.